All right. So we're recording this, the second of our worship roundtables. Can I start us with prayer? Let us pray. Mighty God, we give you thanks for this day and for the opportunities that it provides. We pray for this group gathered, for the communities that they lead. And as we talk about ways we might worship you in new ways, we ask for your guidance, for your clarity, and for your wisdom. In Christ's name, amen.
Sorry about that. I hadn't hit mute yet. I'm going to mute right now.
It's all right. So we had like a 5.5 hour deck meeting on Zoom last weekend, which was as wonderful as it sounds. And there were some people who didn't figure out the mute button. And so we got to hear some fun stuff. As you can imagine, you might hear in a household over 5.5 hours. So Sue is on the call, but her microphone doesn't work. So yeah, Sue, I'm monitoring the chat. So if you have questions or comments, you can put them in there. I want to, first off, Debbie came on late. I think Alice, y'all received Bishop Waldo's Holy Week guidance, right? Yeah. Okay. Just make sure that's out there. And yeah, just what problems are folks running into with anything? You know, I can try to answer some technical questions. I mean, that's my kind of role. Is if you need help trying to figure out some technology, I'm happy to do that. But otherwise, the floor is open. What's working for people? What problems are you running into?
I'll have the technical. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
No.
Yeah, Mary Balfour. And
whatever you want us to do. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to focus on Good Friday and Easter. And so I would like to direct people elsewhere for Maundy Thursday and the Easter Vigil. And I know we talked about this earlier, about possibly Trinity. But I haven't seen yet, like, I'm trying to put a poster together of like, here's where you go for all those. Is any of that been put out yet, or?
No, Trinity's still finalizing their plans. Whenever we have that, I plan to send it out, and it'll be on our website. Most likely whatever Trinity streams will also go through our website at edusc.org/live is where the actual video lives and will show up. We're also, last week, we also, let me get that website and I will share it. We put out, Courtney spent last week trying to go through all of our parishes to figure out who's streaming services, who's recording and posting services and all that. And so we have a list that is incomplete. And so if your parish isn't on there and you are streaming, please kindly just let us know. There was no slight intended, and we'll update those. And so that's another way. We don't have that list down to these people are doing it at 10 o'clock and these people at 8 o'clock because things are changing rapidly. But it's a resource to help people find you and what you're doing, and also a resource for you to help point your people to what other folks are doing as well. I need to find that list real quick, and then I'll share that link. But yeah, Bishop Waldo is assisting with the cathedral liturgies, or at least that was the initial plan. I don't know what their schedule stands at right now, but when we do, we'll communicate that to the clergy. Yeah, Debbie, you had a technical question.
So we're live streaming on Facebook, but we do have a very few folks who don't have Facebook. So do we just go up in the bar to find our URL and copy it and paste it into like an email we could send out to them to tell them just click on this link?
Yeah. So you.
So where does it? I'm sorry. Where does it send you? Does it, if they don't have Facebook, where is that link sending them?
Yeah. So I will. St. Christopher Spartanburg. let me, so I'm going to try to share my screen and walk you through this. I opened up a window that's not going to have me logged in to Facebook. Facebook is also working on new tools, their Facebook Live team, because public pages people can get to without a Facebook account, but it's not always the easiest.
That's the question, because we have both a private and a public, and they're posted on the public.
If you post it on the public, then anyone can log on. They might have to like scroll past a login and things, but if people just ignore that, let's see what it looks like, and then I can talk more about what Facebook is doing. Okay, so you type in, here is, so don't worry about that ref thing at the end, but that facebook.com/St. Chris Spartanburg, if you tell people to just go to that, it'll take you to this. It asks for the login at the top. People don't need to do that. They can still scroll through. Even there, it'll ask for a login. People can deny that. And then they can find your videos, morning prayer. Here's your worship from Sunday.
Well, we don't have to even insert a link into anything. We just tell them to go to our St. Christopher's Episcopal Church Facebook page and
and they can scroll down. You could direct people to the videos link, which would be, this facebook.com/PG.
More of me than you ever thought you would see in your entire life.
Yeah, no, it's great.
No, it's not. Not for the person who's having to, not for me, it isn't.
No, it's very intimidating. I remember the first times that I started to lead worship on Facebook Live and all that. I mean, telling it to go live or hitting record is very, very intimidating. But I mean, look at this.
What's worse is watching it afterwards.
But I mean, look at the 271 views on these videos, not to get in. So that's how people can go. They don't need to be logged in. Facebook tries to force them to sign up. They can say not now, as long as it's a public page.
That is so cool. Thank you.
Yeah. In faith, let me stop that share so you don't have to look at my Facebook toolbar. Facebook is working on making it even simpler. They're doing a couple of things. They haven't given us a timeline on when it's going to be ready, but they're making it even easier for people to get to the live streams. They're also working on dial-in phone number access. They have ways for you to do an audio-only live stream. I've never had success with that, but what they're working on is that someone will have, it won't be toll-free probably, unless there's some fee for it, but there would be a number that you could call in and say, Debbie's leading morning prayer on a Sunday, and I'm one of your parishioners that doesn't have a computer or can't figure it out. I can pick up my phone, dial the number, and I can listen to what's going on your live stream. So they've announced that they're working on these in response to everyone in the world using Facebook Live. And they're deepening their work with churches in particular. They have a faith-based team. As soon as we get information from them, I'm going to share it with y'all. I have no faith it's going to be this or even next week. I'm sure they'd love to have it by Easter. I'm sure Facebook would, but there's no promises. But the short answer, I devolved a little bit. You can point people to your Facebook domain. They don't have to be a member of Facebook to see the videos, as long as it's on a public page. Some churches have private groups, which are awesome, and we could talk about that and their uses in another instance. But for worship, my recommendation is that it be on your page, because those business pages are accessible all the time to anyone. What else for folks? Technical questions, liturgical questions? Yeah, Sally.
Okay, so before I received the bishop's statement yesterday, I had already prepared my Palm Sunday liturgy. So I used as a base, rather than anti-communion, I used morning prayer as the base with the liturgy of the Palms, opening it. Is that okay, just to keep morning prayer?
Yeah, there are parishes that are doing morning prayer.
Yeah, too.
Yeah, some parishes have opted to do anti-communion or liturgy of the word, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
just because of people's familiarity with that. But this is also a time in which one of his earlier pastoral letters, he talked about morning prayer being an option, and that hasn't changed.
Okay, I think our people like having morning prayer and experience.
Yeah,
Okay.
for some congregations, I mean, it's drawing them back to a previous tradition, which is also healing and helpful.
Yeah. Okay, that's what I need to know. Thank you.
Yeah, Alice. You're muted.
Sorry. Talk to me about how you're doing the Liturgy of the Palms in combination with morning prayer, please.
Okay, I'm assuming you're thinking about me. Okay, so I'm just going through the regular Liturgy of the Palms. We are doing everything from a stationary position up front. We're doing our liturgy around the around the ambo. We have one pulpit lectern, so all the liturgy will be taking place there. And then I'll do the liturgy, and then it leads into the Venite.
Okay. We're not doing any live streaming at this point. What I've been doing is morning prayer every morning, including Sunday morning, and Compline every night. And we're not very technologically savvy yet at St. Timothy's, so we've just been using a conference call to do that, and then having some fellowship time at the end, and it's worked really well. I just do a roll call at the beginning to see who all is on the call, and then at the end call on folks, and if they want to, they can just share, and it's become very, very dear. And I think the people who are participating regularly, especially those in both, are getting kind of a monastic rhythm to their life that they've never had before. What I want to do next, and for us, this is a stretch to move that into a Zoom meeting so that we can add in seeing one another's faces. That's where we are. So I'm not videoing anything or live streaming anything that they can see from the parish. We're just in our homes. So I don't really know. I'm just wondering how to do the Liturgy of the Palms when we're not seeing one another.
Alice?
Yeah.
I'm totally stealing this from Jack Hardaway, so this is not my idea, but this might be to participate in it. Is in the Matthew reading, it says branches, not palms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so encourage them before they get on the conference call to go out into their yard and get a branch. And even while you're going through morning prayer, at least they physically have the branch in their hand. They can wave it even if nobody can see it. They are still going through the act of it. And then when they're done, get them to put the branch up against their front door or something like that, so that people in their neighborhood know that they are participating in Palm Sunday in this way. Again, all Jack's idea. I can take no credit for that, but Jack's a creative one. And that just happens. I don't know my Gospels as well as I should. Maybe it's branch in all of them, but I know it says it in Matthew. Surely palms is in one. Anyway, maybe that's something they could do.
Something else that we learned in the conference call with VTS, or the webinar, I guess it was, is that prayer, "It is right to praise you, Almighty God, for the acts of love by which you have redeemed us through your Son, Jesus Christ," is not actually a blessing. And so you can have, to your point, that, you know, if they bring the branches into the house, they can say that prayer along with you. We've always treated it like a blessing, and I hadn't really noticed before that it really isn't a blessing. It's just a prayer about the palms. Let these branches be for us signs of his victory, and grant that we who bear them in his name may ever hail him as our king. There's no act of blessing.
Yeah. Dr. Farwell was pretty clear that kind of the entire Liturgy of the Palms portion can be done at home, with or without a clergy officiant. And so I know there's some, not in our diocese, but I've seen in others, where they're essentially sending a PDF of the Liturgy of the Palms and inviting people to do that as kind of a house church family worship style. And I also don't see how, Alice, it wouldn't work just verbally. I mean, seeing each other's great in its own way, but I want to encourage what you're doing and commend that, you know, I know you and I have talked about your congregation and technology and all that. You're using technology to help connect your folks. And I think it's great. People are getting to hear from one another. And I know, like, for my mom, you know, we try to do FaceTime calls with the kids, but she doesn't always love the FaceTime portion. And so she sometimes just wants to hear their voice and share words with them. And so
it's been
really what you're doing.
Well, thank you. It's been, you know, I'm sure, like the rest of you, I felt, you know, like a hit with a fire hose in the face when this first started. And oh my gosh, you know, how do we shift? And, you know, as the days have passed, and my prayer has been, you know, Lord, lead us in what's right for us. And
and that's the thing I would say for everyone is some congregations have been videotaping and streaming their services for a couple of years, and they're going to have production quality and all of that. We can't get into the comparison trap.
I really appreciated Dr. Farwell saying, you know, early on, you know, if you, I don't know if he said it exactly like this, but what I heard was, you know, if you're not sitting on go with technology, now is not the time.
Yeah.
You know, to try to make all these things happen. And it's been real interesting and wonderful that Margaret Jennings Todd is our deacon now. And she was just telling me last night, her husband is a member of St. John's, and that they are doing many things live streamed. I think maybe 3 services a day, but you know, he hasn't had the kind of contact with his brothers and sisters there that we're having on, you know, just this simple conference call.
Yeah. And so there's trade-offs with everything. I mean, when you do live stream and you have it wonderfully produced, there's not always the, hey, Alice, how's it going? Conversation that can happen over the phone. And so there's blessings with all of it when we try to bring people together. And I think that's what Dr. Farwell was trying to get at. And the folks I've talked to is, you know, we can't compare what we do with other folks. As long as we're trying to be faithful to what God's calling us to do with our communities, then that's what we're supposed to do. Sally, were you going to say something? No. Okay. Mary Balfour.
The other thing I was going to say is I have a lot of people that don't do Facebook either. And I've been very worried about them and communicate. I mean, even though I call them all the time, and I just sending my sermon and the bulletin to them has meant the world. Just for them to have something to read and read through. And some of them are getting critical of my sermons, which is great. I mean, like, it's giving them, I think it's awesome. Give me some feedback, you know? And so just that, I mean, that's nothing. That's putting something in the mail. But because I'm like you, Alice, I can do Facebook Live, but I can't do it for every service. I don't have the people to do it. I don't have the technology, but just sending my sermon has meant a lot to them. So I don't know if other people do that, but maybe it'll be helpful.
Yeah, I've heard from some of the particularly smaller parishes without clergy. I think St. John's Congaree, St. Mark's, Chester, and some others. They've been mailing the, the lectionary leaflets that every parish has that has the collect and the readings and all that. They've been physically mailing those to people. Just number one, so you get something in the mail that's not a solicitation, but also it's a point of connection. And for those folks that don't have clergy in place, they've been pointing them to other places that do, or just trying to give them resources for folks to pray at home. I mean, right now it's kind of all hands on deck, and it's, priesthood of all believers in a sense that, yeah, there are things that clergy still can do, but there's fewer and fewer of those that are actually applicable right now in this new time. And so how can we equip people in their own homes to worship as it seems fit, while at the same time balancing everything else in their life, right? We go to St. Martin in the Fields, my family does, and they're doing a lot of resources because they got clergy coming out of the ears and they got all this, but there's only so much my family can even do between, Boy Scout Zoom meetings and at-home school work and all of this, that sometimes just doing worship for the sake of doing worship isn't what people need. And so that's why Bishop Waldo has wanted to keep things in y'all's hands as clergy and leaders of congregations, is because you have a better sense of what people need than folks a step removed. And so, there are some dioceses that are doing kind of communal, collective live stream services for Holy Week or for whatever. And we haven't really talked about doing that because we want to keep a lot of those movements in the hands of the local congregations. What else? Janie, yeah. Yeah.
So we've had, we've just sort of been like everyone else, chasing, planning liturgies, trying to get things done, getting the new advisory from the bishop, okay, we can't do that anymore. So it's really, whack-a-mole really is, I think, the order of my day most of the time now. I'm just trying to hit the high spots. But what I'm learning about our people is that Compline ending the day together on Facebook Live, that's getting huge hits. And I think it's because it's short, it's consistent, the parts don't change. I mess with the lighting, or I do something to kind of, do that kind of thing. Shannon and I switch off, but we're both always audible. Gotten a couple of lay people. We haven't figured out yet how to go Facebook Live if you're not an administrator of your, so that narrows the number of people. But thinking about Palm Sunday, because I had this great idea 2 weeks ago that we were going to have a car parade, and we were going to have the table with just their palm and a packet of, great things from the VTS call that they could take home. Well, what's happening is I'm figuring out they don't want to leave home. Their attention span is completely overwhelmed in terms of a longer service. We were able to film with some professional help, which I needed a 3-hour nap after just doing morning prayer. So we were able to do that. And then we were able to do just the Eucharistic prayer for Easter. And that's it, not tied to anything else, in part because the homily wasn't ready. I couldn't have done that last Thursday. I just couldn't do it. But to do that Eucharist, which now could stand in for any Easter season Sunday that they want, that's going to be there for them to go to if that's what they're missing. But then someone said to me, well, we can't leave our homes. We like seeing you in yours. We like being able to do that. So for Palm Sunday, what we did last night, and it is about the quality you get when you ask people to help you in the church to read the Passion, right? They're always going to be somebody that stumbles over Golgotha or says some other thing. But we did a Zoom call with a small number of readers for the main parts. And so that'll be up there if people want it. And we're getting ready. We've changed our packet to all email with links. And I got the people that are helping us with music because we're still in transition. Our new minister of music hasn't started. And so that was, but he did send some suggestions. So we have curated musical YouTube options for people to go to that are a part of that. I reached up north of the border to get the printable palms from Diocese of North Carolina if the kids want to color those. Also suggested branches for that kind of thing. But it seems like simpler and simpler and simpler and less and less and less. So I know for me, I'm probably looking at an abbreviated morning prayer, one lesson, probably the gospel, and a blessed little thought for the Sundays after Easter that's at home, that's easy, that's accessible, still dignified, but without all the trappings that people can just have the attention span for. I don't know if that's okay, but that's where we are.
Janie, you lost me on the different readers for the gospel reading for Palm Sunday on Zoom. How are you using that?
So we had less than we have on this call. We had 4 main parts and 2 extra people that were kind of pinch hitting reading the other parts. And
you recorded it?
We did record it. And then somehow magically, by someone else's talent, not mine, it's supposed to show up on our YouTube page. So that'll be a Palm Sunday option if they want to look at it. Because in our parish, that is the Palms and the Passion are the central pieces of that people really hang on to. So they will have the lessons, they will have those other things in their packet. The links are all going to be there as I sit and think about our inserts that are just sitting at church gathering dust. But it's better to do it this way. We're mailing them to the people we know are not on computer. But I think they'll have all the parts if they want to, and we've been structuring that. But I wanted them to have the 2 main things that I know they focus on. So.
Janie, I wanted to tell you, I think you know this, but we're doing Compline or something every night at 8:00. And at first it was me, and I'm still doing it every 3 or 4 days, but I've been trying to invite different members of the parish to do it, and they are loving seeing each other. And even last night I had Sarah Audrey Graves from Winston-Salem do it and maybe Janie can do it for me. But what you do is you make them a temporary editor on the Facebook page. And then you can go delete them the next day so they can't be putting stuff on the church's Facebook page, which happened. And I got in trouble because somebody accidentally posted on the church's page instead of their own. And it was not something I would have wanted on the church's. But I made them a temporary editor, and then they can go live for that day. And it's not always been Compline. Sometimes they're reading a children's book. On Palm Sunday, I'm going to read the donkey story, which is the story of, from the donkey's perspective of Palm Sunday. So, just if you want other people, I've gone back and listened to a lot of yours, and I love your voice. I love Shannon's voice. But if you want to engage other people from the congregation, and they're loving seeing each other's face, I mean, it's sometimes the only time they get to see each other. You can do it that way. So I wanted to tell you that.
Thanks.
And that another source of anxiety for some folks is the live portion of the worship. And so, Janie, I'm glad you brought it up. There are some congregations that are pre-recording kind of all of it. And then there's ways that you can, for Facebook and YouTube both, you can upload those and set them as premieres, what's called premiere. So if you set it to premiere at Sunday at 10 o'clock, it's going to function just like a live video where everyone's watching at the same time, or everyone that logs on. There's a chat that's, synced to the time and all of that. But it takes away some of what happens when someone messes up and talks about Golgotha or whatever, so people can redo. So if the live thing is an anxiety inducing idea, There are ways to get around, and you can record it. We have parishes that are doing that, and some parishes are just doing it live. And for me, I'm a proponent of doing stuff at home too. I mean, I think there's a place for recording things in the sanctuary that folks are used to because they want to see it. But when I was leading daily office things from my home, when everyone in Houston was stuck in their homes because of the floods, I mean, people would comment about that in particular. You know, it's, you know, we know that our priest is in the same situation. We know that, you know, and even like, you know, my house is crazy, right? And I've got dogs that bark and whine and kids that yell and all of that. And even that, I mean, gives a glimpse into who we are as people. And so I had some deep conversations with folks about those types of things, just because they see that life's not perfect. And so if you're not able to get to your church, don't feel like you have to, or if you don't feel safe doing that, because leading these things from your house, in my experience, has been meaningful for people. What else? Any other thoughts or questions? I put another link in the chat for, I did this a while ago, for it's the resources from VTS's webinars they did. And so if you go to that, it's the Triduum Under Quarantine. You can watch the 2-hour webinar if you want, but there's also a link there to a Google Drive that has a ton of resources for different things people can do at home, different things clergy can do to help modify these liturgies. So all of that is at that link on our website. Someone had their hand up. Was that Janie or? Yeah.
Not to turn away from what we're focusing on right now, but I wonder if anybody else is dealing with anxious brides and grooms. Wow. We just have one, and what they've decided to do, which I think is a good alternative because it takes it out of my hands, because I had to say to them yesterday, I cannot do this. I can't even do it early, because what we had talked about was the two of them and me, and then 2 people outside the gate and doing it outside that they could witness. And that's it. And they were willing for that because they really wanted me to do the ceremony, but now I can't. And so they're probably going to find someone else to just do that. And then in the fall, we'll have the celebration and just do that. So
yeah, what I proposed to them, because I have one in May and then the other 2 are in July, which we haven't decided about July yet, and I'm not going to tell them anything yet because I think that's making a too fast of a decision. You know, I just told him, I said, I think you need to make a decision if you want to get married on this day, if this is the day you want to get married. And if it is, then get somebody else to do it that doesn't have the restriction that I do. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just the case, you know, and then we will bless it later, which is just as special, just as wonderful. And I did a lot of these in North Carolina because I was right by Fort Bragg, where people just went to the courthouse and got married because one of the spouses was going to be deployed. And then later we did the blessing. So I'm used to that. So, you know, I just think they have to make a decision on their own. Are you going to stay with that date or not? And if you are, find someone else to do it. And then we'll have but my July brides, they're very anxious, but I don't have an answer for them. Other than that. And that's what I've just tried to say. And I may still be able to do them in July. I mean, I'm hoping we can. I'm hoping by May this is gone, but we just can't predict that. That's been a huge course of issue though, understandably. I mean, I was just a bride 5 years ago, so I understand. I'd be freaking out if if it was me.
I have a parishioner who is not yet married, and we had planned a wedding in mid-May in Hilton Head, and she's pregnant and does not want to announce the pregnancy until after the wedding takes place. And I have not yet been able to contact her. And what I want to say to her is, go ahead and get married at the courthouse, but I don't know if that's possible. Does anybody know if that's even possible to have a civil union happen?
I don't
right
know.
now?
It's not possible that I know it, but you can get the license. They're doing the licenses by mail. And so, you know, if the Unity Church of the Internet, if that's one person and their parents, however it just has to be someone legally recognized to do that, right? I guess, I don't know. She has a minister from another denomination, the one I'm working with, but I do know they can get the license.
So instruct her to go ahead and get the license and then just find anybody who can officiate?
I wonder if you would ask Bishop Waldo about that one. I wonder if that could be a pastoral exception of some kind, or I don't know. I just would ask him.
I'm almost
Yeah,
thankful
that
she hasn't
seems like
answered her phone yet, since I don't have a clear direction to give her. Okay, I'll contact Andrew about that.
Yeah, that seems like a case by case question there. But the court, I don't know. Is
I don't think it's
the
open.
clerk an essential office? I don't know if the person who can marry you at the courthouse, magistrate, judges, or whatever. I don't know.
Most courthouses I know of are closed. There's nothing moving there for. Well, you have an into that, Alice. So
I know the federal. There are no cases coming before the federal court at least until May 8th.
Yeah. So,
but I don't know about.
It's not ideal, but this couple wanted to finish their Zoom premarital counseling before they did that, and I just thought that was a wonderful foundation to at least have that part and go ahead and finish it.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Any other thoughts? Alice, yeah.
Well, yeah, I'd just like to say where I'm at and ask advice on, maybe a next step. I told you we're doing morning prayer and Compline daily via a conference call, and we'll soon be stepping that up to a Zoom platform so that we can at least see each other. And I think that can work similarly. And for the Sunday service, have a different reader that is seen. We can have a cantor that is seen, and add in those components easily enough. Have a virtual coffee hour check-in the same way by calling on individuals one at a time so that people aren't talking over one another. And for us and for some of my parishioners, that's a big step to just simply be seen. What I don't know about Zoom yet, and maybe you can help answer this, is I need it to be a simple contact. So if I have, that's 3 different recurring meetings: a Sunday morning at 10, Monday through Saturday morning at 8 for morning prayer, and then every night of the week at 7 for Compline. So that's 3 different recurring meetings. The simplicity of using the conference call number is it's the same number for everything. Nobody has to keep up with invitations or different numbers or what. Do you know if it can be set up that all 3 of those recurring meetings are one number for those who have to call in, or one contact? Oh, wait, I can't hear you. Yeah,
there, I'm unmuted. So yeah, a couple thoughts on that. You can, if you have an account, I think even with the free accounts, but maybe
I have the
you do. Okay.
next step up
With
paid
the paid
account.
account, you have a personal meeting ID, and it'll be probably 9 numbers. And so you can set it up to where every single meeting is zoom.us/1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Zoom.us, my personal
Yeah,
ID.
like it'll tell you what the link is. And when you set up the recurring meetings, I think that there's an option to use the personal meeting ID, because some places have standing meetings where you just go to that same place every time. For the phone calls, there's a list of phone numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It costs to get a toll-free number, so it might not be a local number that people are calling, but if people are calling with cell phones, that's less of an issue there. I haven't seen a local number. They've got like a local New York number, Chicago, the bigger places. And so what people do there is they dial that phone number and then they enter that meeting ID. So they would need to know, and that number will be the same every time, that phone number. And then if you're using the personal meeting ID, that'll be the same. A problem that people are running into is with these public Zoom meetings that don't require a second step with a password, which you can also set up a password that's the same every time. But if you just have kind of a standing meeting, there's a new thing called Zoom bombing. And you might have heard about this. It's why I switched these meetings to when you logged on, you were in a waiting room. And I had to let you in. I had to click a button to let you in. Because schools and some churches are experiencing these meetings and someone pops in and they don't have any clothes on, or they pop in and they share their screen and it's
What we don't want to see.
Exactly. Right. It's because people with not good intentions, they're stuck at their house too, and they're figuring out how to innovate, I guess. Innovation in the criminal
Or you
space.
could be that poor woman that went to the bathroom on the phone.
I saw that one too.
Oh.
And so the problem with having a standard link, and if it's something you're just sending out to your people, it's less of a concern. But there are things like, there's options like enabling the waiting room when you set up a meeting, that I would recommend. The password might be a good idea. I didn't do a password for these this week. I may in 2 weeks. But me as the host, I saw all of your names when you're in the waiting room, and I said, Janie can come in. This time, I haven't seen anyone that says, no good scumbag or whatever.
What if somebody comes into the meeting later after it started?
It pops up in the participants thing. So
because you've enabled waiting room.
Yeah. So I'll share my screen real quick. It'll look kind of like your screen. But nope, that's not what I want to see. Now you see my Facebook page, which is fine. So there's a thing for manage. If you're the host, down along the bottom, one of the toolbars is manage participants.
Yeah.
And so I can go in and unmute Janie or mute Janie. I can go in and control those things. That same toolbar will also pop up and says, Jimmy Hartley wants to join the meeting. And for someone like him, I would not allow that. You have to physically let them in the meeting or decline it. You can also, with these things, like I could remove someone from a meeting. And so if you're doing Zoom and it's a public thing, just familiarize yourself with some of those host controls so that if someone comes on and it looks like they're up to no good, you can remove them. And once they're removed, they can't log back on. That's a Zoom safeguard. There's some
But to make it simplest for accessing the platform for the least tech savvy person in my congregation, what do you recommend? So
for the least tech savvy person who's using a phone, it would
or
be,
who doesn't have a computer.
Yeah. And so I'm still comfortable using the meeting ID as long as you've set up the thing that says enable waiting room. And there's another thing that says don't allow people to log in before the host. So those two things coupled together gives the host some control over who can come in the room. And so those two things, and those are both when you set up the meeting, the same place you would say it to be recurring and all of that. Those are options on that page. And then if you enable personal meeting ID and you use that for every single meeting, then what you're going to do for this person that's just using a phone is you're going to say you dial this phone number. And then when it asks you for your meeting ID, every time you type in this 9-digit number or whatever it is, and then that'll get them on the meeting. And for other people, you'll send them the same link. And so the link will be zoom.us/whatever. Every single time they can click on that link and join.
Okay.
Yeah, and so Zoom is I think working on some additional safeguards, because I don't know that they foresaw that, you know, bad guys are innovating just like the rest of us. And so some of those tools and things will probably change in the coming weeks as we figure out how to deal with bored people with too much time on their hands. Yeah, Jen.
So go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we need a Harry Potter meme that says mischief managed that'll just blow some smoke or something where that person was.
Yeah, hopefully.
So after we get the Zoom going, I don't want to bombard my folks with too much at once. And so it seems to me that going Zoom next is a good next step for us. And then I'm thinking, okay, maybe the record myself giving them some, reflection or, or weekly message or whatever. And what we use is a church community builder database. And I guess I would just post a video on that and use that, or on our Facebook page. I haven't gone there yet.
Yeah, I mean, the Facebook page would be a natural. I'm not familiar with Church Community Builder, but if it's like other databases, some of them have like a thing that can either email out to folks, or some of them even have kind of an app function where you go, and that would just depend on the functionality of your church management program.
Okay.
Yeah, Janie.
I just wanted to encourage you, Alice, if you're doing something that's working and they feel connective, I would start with something like a coffee hour Zoom that doesn't have the pressure of a service, so they can see each other. Our EFM class waited a couple weeks because they weren't sure what technology was going to do to this very closely knit group. And they loved it because I told them to put it on the gallery view. And so it's kind of like the Brady Bunch, right? You can see everybody. And so they might really love that if there wasn't an agenda attached to it first. And just say, this is what this looks like. Which do you prefer? Because that's what I finally did this week, was figure out, I send out a meditation every Tuesday. And I finally just said, first of all, I miss you all. I realize the circuit is broken for me. And so I don't know what you want. I don't know if you like what we are doing. Hello, thundering silence. I see people are watching, but they didn't want to bother me. And so you're at a point in a conference call when you can just say to them, especially after they've had a virtual coffee hour, then you could just say, what works for you all? Because I'm just getting that people are overwhelmed and zoomed out. And that's why I'm doing these little pieces and letting them do their own thing. I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah, I would echo that. All of these things are tools to be used, right? And if any of it causes anxiety or stress, or you just don't have time because you're pastoring your people, that's okay. And do what's appropriate for you and for your folks. We are coming up on our time. Any last thoughts or questions? We'll do our normal routine for these, at least while they're still helpful and while we're still figuring things out, is every other week. And so not next Wednesday, but the next, which will be the 15th, I guess, will be the next of these series of calls. And we have 4 of them each day, each Wednesday. You know, we had a mission and outreach focused one at 10. This one, 1 o'clock, I think, is formation focused. And then at 2 o'clock is pastoral care focused. And all of them function kind of like this, sharing ideas. We may look into bringing in some experts to kind of guide a discussion in a certain way. But as long as these are helpful and as long as people keep getting something out of them, this is what we're going to keep doing. If you have thoughts for other things that we at Diocesan House could provide as far as webinars or other resources, you know, let me know, email me, call me, text me, whatever, and we'll see what we can do.
I will, let's see. I will say that my senior warden and finance committee are real interested in what are the brass tack ways we can save money and cut costs. You know, besides ways of, you know, simpler, easier ways for people to give. And we're aware of many different ways to broach that, but you know, are there real ways where we can save money and cut costs right now?
Yeah, I'll pass
they're
that
asking
on,
for that kind of help.
Yeah, and there's our webinars page on our website, we're trying to collect all, not just EDUSC things, but things that other groups are doing. And so it's edusc.org/webinars.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one coming up. There's one this afternoon that I think maybe I mentioned it earlier. Episcopal Church Foundation is doing on the CARES Act, the stimulus recovery bill that was just passed, where they have some folks from Treasury, Senator Scott, who are coming on to talk about how churches can participate in that. So that's not the saving money bit, but there was one, where did I see it? Yeah, so Thursday, so tomorrow at 11 a.m., there's one put on by ECF that's effective vestries in the time of crisis. And so I don't know the content of that, what it's going to be, but it's geared toward vestry and clergy leaders to think about their role during this time. And so information on all of these, everything from cultivating inner peace in unsettling times to asset-based ministry in response to COVID-19. We're trying to put all those webinar opportunities that we find from other organizations all on our website as well. So, and the diocesan calendar, most of them have been added to the diocesan calendar, so you can go and find information about registering for those as well.
Do you know if those are recorded and accessible later?
Most of them are, and the ones that are, I'm trying to put on our YouTube channel, which you can find recordings to previous webinars and roundtables on that same webinars page. So the same place where you get information about ones coming up, you'll also find a playlist of videos for ones that have happened. And so you go to that page right now, and down at the very bottom is a YouTube playlist that has everything from VTS's Triduum webinars to SEEP has done a whole bunch about fundraising and parish administration and communications and all that. You can find all of those on that page as well. Not everyone has been recorded because some of them people are still being proprietary about things they're sharing and whatever. But the ones that are, we're trying to curate those resources as well. And yeah, that's my recommendation. All these webinars are free. And so at the very least, register. So if the stuff is available after the fact, they'll email you. So I register for all of these just so I may not be able to physically attend all of them, but but then I'll at least know if the stuff's available after the fact. All right. With that, I will see you all this afternoon if you join one of those calls. Otherwise, in a couple weeks when we convene this group again. And I hope that you all rest and have wonderful afternoons.
Thanks, Alan.
Bye.